This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, November 15th show. My goal is to keep you up to date on the latest news and trends in our local economy and keep you tuned in, or keep me tuned in, and I'll keep you informed. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you're listening to a rebroadcast, but you can always call into the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And it's a real privilege to have back in studio. I like it this time of year to bring in my representatives from Mama's Hand. We have Denny Hancock as well as Jodie Cetnar. And over the past 2 decades, Mama's Hands has been blessed to open 3 shelters for women and children. Each is called the House of Hope, but these are more than just houses to hundreds of women and children. They're home, and they always have needed this and dreamed about it. And I just wanted to dedicate the entire show to Mama's Hands, and I think it's an appropriate time, this time in the holidays, to really think about how blessed we are as everything that we have, and really just the opportunity to give back to people that don't have as much as we do. If you want to talk directly to the guests that I have from Mama's Hand in studio, please call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150. You can always go to mamashands.com to see how that you can help and give back to your community, because I guarantee after this show, you definitely will want to do that. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming in. Denny, it's a pleasure to have you back. I miss having Leslie, your wife, here.
Well, she's very humble, wonderful woman, and she wanted Jodie to be able to speak of what her experience is with Mama's Hands.
That is awesome. And Jodie, it is a pleasure to have you here as well. And next time we'll just have to have all 3 of you in.
That sounds
Thanks
great.
for Jodie. So a little background: mother and father of 5 and grandparents of 11. Leslie, who's not in studio with me, but is Denny's wife and right hand, I guess I say, to Mama's Hand. Leslie is a top realtor with Windermere Real Estate, and Denny is a business owner for floor covering for 15 years of their marriage, and founder now and director of Mama's Hand since 1990. Denny began working with the homeless on the streets of Seattle and then opened up the first House of Home in 1994, and the second one 2004, and now the third opened in 2012. Jodie Cetnar, program director of Mama's Hands, has been working with families in crisis for most of her career. Born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, Jodie attended Florida State University and earned her bachelor's degree in psychology and master's degree in social work. Jodie has relocated her and her husband and 4 children to Washington and is delighted to be working with Mama's Hands and House of Hope. Again, I'm just really thrilled for the show today. It's special to do something different than what we normally do, and the show really does help people. It helps them with their finances and everything regarding money. But I think just getting to the basics in helping people is helping have a home, a security, a place to live, food and shelter. And so it's just, again, so much of a privilege for me to be able to have you guys here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and start out to share with my listeners. I know a lot about Mama's Hand, but we may have some listeners that don't. So Mama's Hand is a 2-part program. Can you tell my listeners a little bit about each of those?
Yeah, back in 1990 when we first began, what I started doing was I just wanted to do something. I wanted to make a difference. After an experience I had in a small cafe in South Seattle, where I had the opportunity to see someone that was really struggling. I thought I was having a hard time, but then I met these 2 men, ended up being a father and a son, that were homeless, and it just changed my perspective on my own issues. And I thought, I want to do something to help people like this. And we went out on the streets to feed, which I found out there's plenty of food on the streets of Seattle. That's not much of a problem. But not too long after we started, just a month or so, somebody asked to use my cell phone. And that started something that really is the anchor to Mama's Hands, is our phone home program, where we help people get in touch with their families. So many of the homeless have families that would love to help them, but because of pride or other issues, they don't reach out, and we help them do that. So that's what we do on the streets, and we still do that. In fact, Jodie and I just got back from Seattle. We just sent somebody home to Indianapolis.
Wow.
And to his mom, and that was really a good experience to talk to her and to know that they're going to be reunited in a couple days. And we also, after 2 or 3 years, I always had heard about these homeless women and children, but I wasn't seeing them. I would maybe over the years just seen a couple dozen women with children, and I wondered where they were, and they were in shelters, of course, and they had kids, so they wanted their kids to be safe at night, and I thought at first, this is good. And I visited one of the shelters, and it was comforting to see that they were safe and that it wasn't raining on them and it wasn't cold, but it wasn't a home either. And so we started the House of Hope program, which where Jodie works now and where we see miracles on a daily basis. And it's just a wonderful, beautiful feeling.
That's awesome, Denny. And what about the services? Can you talk a little bit about the services that are offered?
Yeah, I'll have Jodie go ahead and tell you about that.
Well, when our women come in, we set them up with a goal plan. So we meet once a week and work on goals and work on things that they want to accomplish in their lives. And we have a counselor that comes on site. She's a licensed mental health counselor once a week, and she meets with all of our women. And we work on budgeting, and we have cooking classes. We have many volunteers that do many different things. So we do the best we can to give the women as many services as we can provide.
That's awesome. And we each have strengths and we have weaknesses and we have things that we're passionate about, and it's different for every woman. So the idea that you've got everything there to help to find what they're passionate about, and ultimately that's what we're going to be successful at.
Definitely.
So what about situations that they've faced, Jodie? What are some situations?
Well, we have a lot of women that are dealing with addictions. We have mental illness. We have women that are just homeless. They face domestic violence and fled their abuser, and they end up kind of on the street or sleeping on a friend's couch. So they've faced many different situations. So it's amazing to work in a place where so many different women come from so many different situations.
Yeah.
It's not just domestic violence, or it's not just drug abuse. They come together and they all support each other like a family. Yeah,
and that's amazing, Jodie. I could imagine too how much more of an impact that would is if you're not just helping them on their own, but you're building a community of helping them all together. And it ultimately not only are you their family, but the other women that are experiencing the same thing. So, What about a success story?
Well, we have a lady in shelter right now. She was brought to us from another one of our residents that graduated the program, that left the program and is doing really well.
Way back in like 1997.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this woman was actually living in the woods for a couple of years and out in our area and doing drugs.
Lost her custody of her children.
2 children,
Wow.
right, and found out she was pregnant. So she decided, I have to do something about this, or my life is it's spinning out of control, and I'm not going to regain control. I'm going to lose custody of this 3rd child that I have, and I really want to bring my family back together. So she met this lady that had left the program, and she brought her to us, and she toured the campus, and she ultimately moved in, went through drug treatment, had her baby, and is doing an amazing job getting her life back together.
She's really a leader out there. And tell them what Tia named her baby.
Oh, and her baby is named Hope after the House of Hope.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Boy, so this is a referral by somebody that was successfully made it through the program.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
A lady that had lived in her car with her little girl and now is doing well on her own.
So what about some things that you're in need of? If I have a listener that's listening to the show today and is wanting to give back, what are things that that Mama's Hands need?
Well, I think Denny can talk about the overall big stuff.
Yeah, well, we always need money.
Of course.
The money pays for the utilities, and we have 3 good-sized homes with a lot of maintenance issues. Because we're at the base of the mountains, which we chose specifically because it was, number one, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's away from the issues that they were facing, and it gives them a chance to feel safe, and it's just so beautiful. But we buy a lot of gas. Mm-hmm. We need help. A lot of the young ladies that want to volunteer, we need help with babysitting. And I guess our biggest issues would be utilities and food, of course, mm-hmm. and gasoline and vehicles. We actually just acquired for one of the ladies a vehicle this week, but
wow.
most of them have nothing when they come in.
Yeah, so if you're helping them get employment, they have to have a way to get there.
Yeah, and you were talking about finances, of course, because that's what you do. And,
yes. And
that's a big issue with the women mm-hmm. that we work with, that so many of us take for granted, because they are so broke, and they feel so helpless until we are able to set up a plan.
Sure.
And they find hope in that, and they get excited, and finances are important.
Yeah. And again, just the community and building that together, when you're not doing it on your own and you have a community of other women and you're building that together, you've got the accountability, and everybody wants to, to be a part of that success story. So what about volunteering?
Go ahead, Jodie. Talk about the shelter first.
We always need volunteers.
Okay.
And we love to bring volunteers in and use them for what they want to do, for what they're good at, where their talents lie. So we've had ladies come in and show the moms at House of Hope how to cook or how to sew uh-huh. or budgeting, resume writing, transportation. We have women that come in or men that love to do yard work or uh-huh. that love to sort through donations because we have a clothing closet on campus.
Okay.
So there are just so many things that people can come and do, And
we're always open to Eagle Scout projects. We have a couple of cabins and really incredibly fun places for the kids to play.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of playground things that have been built by the Scouts. And anyway, the Scouts have been great.
So if you're just tuning in, I have in studio today for the entire show, Mama's Hands, that is talking about opportunity to give back to our community and people help, to help people right here in Seattle. And with their House of Hope, actually also helping people that are homeless on the street. And so if you want more information on how you can help, whether it's money or it's just giving time, pick up the phone and give the show a call at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150. Or you can go online to mamashands.com and connect with their staff and find out how you can help. And I like to hear, too, that anything that you're passionate about that you can share, most likely there'll be a woman there that could benefit for that. So giving back in that way, it helps everybody. And coming up next on the Money Hour, for every child, a home, for every mother, hope. Continued conversation with Mama's Hands right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Well, welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, November 15th show. I'm committed to providing you knowledge needed to be successful in every area regarding your financing. Knowledge is power, and that's what you'll receive by listening to my show. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you're listening to a rebroadcast. To talk with my guest in studio, please call into the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And right now I have Denny and Jodie from Mama's Hands Because of Mama's hands behind each smiling mother and each laughing child, they have had months or even years of heartache and struggle, but now recovery, and they have victory because of everything that is happening over at Mama's hands. And again, I'm so privileged to have both of you here in studio. Thank you very much. So with every big accomplishment, there's always a story behind. And I know, Denny, we started out at the beginning, but for my listeners that just chimed in, can you tell again the story behind why you started Mama's Hands? What was that one event that changed your life and now has changed so many others?
Well, I felt so blessed as a young man to find Leslie, my amazing wife, and then to have these children that I totally loved, and we just had such joy in our family. But it was always a struggle for me to keep up with the bills, and we were getting behind. We owned a home, and from the outside it looked like we were doing really well. But I felt like I need to have something big happen to get out of debt, and a friend of mine told me about this job, 350 or so apartment units that they were looking for somebody to carpet. And I thought, this is going to change my life. And it did. I got the bid, and some things happened during that job that's a long story, but I ended up losing a lot of money. And I thought, how am I ever going to get back on my feet? How can I make this work? And I was pretty miserable most of the time. And I was carpeting this yacht in South Seattle. And for lunch, I would run to this little cafe called the County Line Cafe. And I had run over to the cafe, and I was sitting there ready to order. And a couple of homeless people walked in. And my first reaction was, I hope those guys don't sit by me. I only have like 20 minutes, and I just don't want to deal with that right now. And they ended up sitting right next to me, and I felt bad because I thought maybe they'd seen me turn away, and I started talking and the older man talked back, and really a nice man. I thought, wow, this is a good guy. And he got up to use the phone, and I started talking to the younger man, and he didn't respond, and I looked closer, and I could tell he was blind, and he started shaking, and he fell to the floor, and I'd never seen a seizure before, and I thought this young man was dying, and I called for his friend, and he hurried over and got down on his knees next to him, and after a short while he looked up at me and he said, "Please don't feel sorry for us." He said, "This is my son, and he's been like this since he was a small boy." And he said, "I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot wrong in my life, but my son, his soul is in heaven, and someday he's going to take me there with him." And then these same two people that I didn't want to sit by me, they stood up. He stood up and helped his son up, and they walked out not having eaten anything. And I had this love for them that I had never felt outside of my own family, and this desperate need to make them happy or do something to help them. And all of a sudden, all my issues were so small.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I write music. I wrote a song about it. And a friend, Steve Lampson, a friend of mine, said, "Denny, you need to do these things with those feelings." And he wrote down a list. And I looked at, I can do that right now. And by the next week, I was out on the streets. I took one of my big trucks that I used to haul carpet in, and I made a mobile kitchen out of it with the help of some other friends. And we went out to change the world.
And you did change the world, Denny. That was how many years ago?
25 almost.
And what an amazing, thank you so much for sharing the entire story, because I think understanding and really, and if you go to Mama's Hand, you can hear the song and learn more about, how they're just changing lives. And it's just nice to hear the story behind it. And for everything that happens to us that hits our heart, in very small occasions, it turns into something huge, and that's exactly what you've been able to do over these 25 years. So again, it's just a privilege to have you here. So let's go back to that moment, and you headed out to the street of Seattle. First time. What really did you think that you, one person with 5 children, financial distress yourself, that you could really do to help Denny?
Well, I was very naive, and it was a good thing because I might not have done it. I thought, I'm going to save somebody tonight. I'm going to make somebody happy that's sad. I'm gonna feed, and it's gonna feel good. And so, I didn't necessarily think I was gonna change the world, but selfishly, I thought, I'm gonna have a good feeling tonight. This is gonna feel good. And the very first person that we saw walking on the sidewalk was a lady with a baby, which is ironic because I don't see that very often. And I pulled up next to her and asked her if she would like a cup of soup. And we had a hot dog and a cup of soup and some bread, and we gave it to her. And she was so grateful. I thought, that felt so good. And we went and found some more and just kind of drove around the city and ended up finding about 100 or so people. And,
wow.
And when I went home, I just told my wife that it just felt so good. I said, I don't know what good I did for them, but I know for me, I want to keep doing this. And she always has supported me in that. And
it's a true testimonial that whatever you think you can do it. And now the women that are living in the House of Hope, they actually have that hope because they can accomplish anything they want to accomplish as well. Yeah. You just need the hope, and you need the helping hand. So how many homeless do you think that there are in Seattle, and what do you think are the main reasons for them being homeless?
I think there's probably there could be a couple of thousand. I see every week about 100 as I go out on the streets, because we still go out, of course, to help. We feed, but mostly we help them get in touch with their families. There's probably thousands. I see 100. The main reason that they're out there, a lot of it is mental issues. But mostly it's family issues. Of course, drugs, and even a lot of people that are just so wounded from experiences in life, being in war zones and all kinds of issues. But mostly it's pride. They feel like that they don't want their family to know how bad off they are.
Yeah.
And it's pretty wonderful to get a hold of a mother and say, I have your son here with me, and he'd like to talk to you. He'd like to repair this relationship. And it's just such a wonderful feeling to know that, wow, this person's life is going to change.
Yeah, and to be able to make those connections. I have to say, my dad passed last year, and he passed at a pretty old age. Was very, very unexpected that he would actually live that long. A lot of trauma and drug issues that he had. And if it weren't for my Aunt Beppy that took him in for years, took care of him, he would have been out of the streets as well. And I know my dad would have been that one that would have not wanted to connect out of the same reason that you just explained. So it's making those connections and just giving that opportunity to bring them together. So let's go back to the House of Hope. And what is it like for the children that are living in your homes?
I'll let Jodie talk about it, even though that's my favorite part.
She's got a big smile on her face.
Well, I think it's every child's dream. I mean, we're on 15 amazing, beautiful acres of land with playhouses and a zip line that Denny's put up, and bicycles everywhere. Yeah. And they just run. And they have just an amazing time. Rain, shine, snow, sleet. It doesn't matter. They're outside. And they're just having an amazing time. It's so neat to see
a new family come and see the kids. They don't even ask each other their names. They're all of a sudden they're best friends.
Yeah.
And they're playing. And I've heard the kids say to their mom, is this where we live? Is this where we live? And it feels So good.
And imagine with, you have to start with the moms. You have to start in helping them. And imagine how it's just trickling down, because if those moms were not being helped and the kids were in the environment that they were before they came to the House of Hope. Just amazing, the dynamic of all of this. And then, their children, and it goes on down the line. So with all the different personalities and challenges that they have coming in and all living together, do the women all get along? Or are there any personality issues that are happening?
There's a lot of
What's the dynamics?
Jodie, go ahead.
Oh, we have many issues, but our women work together. And we emphasize to them when they come in that we're a family. You live with these women in this household, and even though you may not have chose your family at this time, they're your family. And, yes, there's issues here and there, and we have to sit down and talk something out at least once a week, But in all, I think for 9 women living on the same piece of property and, up to 20 kids at a time, they do an amazing job of getting along and taking care of each other and each other's children. So
everybody, it's a structured system and plan that each family is going through to help them in the direction that they want to go, or how does a normal day look like?
We have a lot of rules, like need to get up in the morning and make your bed.
Okay.
Your room needs to be clean. Need to be back on the property by 7:30.
Okay.
Unless you've called us and let us know, so we're not worried about you. It's just like it was for me growing up. It's just a lot of common sense rules that we take for granted, or that I took for granted, and that they haven't had. They haven't had the structure, and some of them really fight it, and it takes them a while.
So if they do fight it, if they're not willing to adapt to the structure, and you have to have structure in anything that they do, what happens? Do they get kicked out?
Yeah, we don't like to call it kicked out, but they eventually have to go. In fact, on the way here, I got a message from a lady that we had to exit, and she just said, basically, "Hi, how are you?" And I could tell she just wanted to communicate, and it was a good thing that we did. And for some reason, she'd been there for a while. She figured she could get by without the curfew and this and that. And so we have to stick to the rules, else it would all fall apart.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So we have Mama's Hands in studio here for the entire show, and I like to call it my little holiday special, and a little bit different than what my listeners are usually listening to is all this stuff about money and finances. But again, just getting to the basics and helping people that don't have money, just to have a
Tina,
little bit of hope.
I have a
Denny.
Thanksgiving story that I'd love to tell you.
Perfect. So let's do that as soon as we get back from break. So coming up next on the Money Hour, the House of Hope offers and connects with countless services to help residents regain hope, dignity, self-esteem, and a move towards a self-reliant future. Continue conversation with Denny and Jodie from Mama's Hands right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, November 15th show. I provide you news on everything money, fresh information on the market trends and conditions in our local economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day or listening to a rebroadcast, you can call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And right now I have Denny and Jodie from Mama's Hands, a house filled with hope. That is just one of the many hopes that Mama's Hands is bringing to homeless right here in our backyard. And Denny and Jodie, thank you again for joining me for the entire show and having representation here from Mama's Hands.
Thank you.
So right before we left from commercial, Denny, I was explaining to the listeners this is my holiday special show, having you guys here, and it's our second annual, and I will continue to have you guys every year when you can break away from the holidays and bring a little something a little bit different to the show. And we were going to talk about a Thanksgiving story. Can you share that?
Yeah. Every Friday, the ladies all get together with Jodie, and I sneak in there every now and then just to hear them kind of plan their the weekend and the next week. And
we're talking about at the House of Hope.
Yeah, at the House of Hope.
Okay.
And a couple of years ago, we all, it was close to Thanksgiving, and I said, hey, let's all just think of one thing that we're really thankful for and share it. And so we went around the table, and it was cool because the older kids that could talk, wanted to do it too. So it was so fun to hear how, and it made everybody so happy.
Yeah.
And we got to this one little girl, and she said, I'm thankful that my mom is happy.
Wow.
And it just, I mean, I love kids. I love the moms too, but I love these kids.
Yeah.
And to think that this kid is so aware of, and has seen
something that
her
we
mom
take
go,
advantage
yeah.
for, that we can be happy over so many things, but we let the small stuff in life take away that happiness.
Yeah, and everybody started crying. It was just like, I'm thankful that my mom is happy. And
and I know you love kids because you guys have 5 of your own and you have 11 grandkids. So, and now you're helping
actually, we have 12 and 2 more on the way now.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations on the they just keep on coming, and you've got all the take-in kids and grandkids that
Plus, I love
help.
Jodie's kids.
Of course you do.
She's got great kids.
So we were talking about the House of Hope and the women there, and you know, there's a structure and there's things that go on during the day, and you're really helping them to get to that next stage in life. And the idea is for them to get on their own. And so, how is there a amount of time that they typically stay? Is there a limit to where you're hoping that they advance into being able to be on their own?
Well, I think that's the beauty of the program. We don't have a time-limited stay.
Okay, wow.
So really, whatever they're working on or whatever they want to accomplish, they can stay as long as they need to. If they're going to school, or if they have found a great job, or they have some training that they need to do, as long as they're moving forward and achieving goals and making progress,
that's amazing.
They can stay.
So, Jodie, with that, because there's so many people that need help in our area, you have to. I mean, your homes they're filled, aren't they?
Oh, they're full.
So, what? How do people get? Or do they get on a waiting list, or how do new families, how do new mothers with children have the opportunity to be at the House of Hope?
Well, the hardest thing every day is to answer that phone when we're full.
Yeah.
Because we have calls every day, many calls every day. So it's hard to turn women away.
Yeah.
You know, that we're struggling and they're on the street and you wish you could take all of them in.
Sure.
But we have a waiting list and, we kind of just, the spaces we have, we try to fill. As soon as someone moves out, we have many people trying to get in.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're looking for a good place for some of the extra cash that you have, is to pick up the phone, give the show a call, or go directly to mamashands.com and find out how you can volunteer or give a donation. And is there in the future, is there more homes that you're looking at building? I see your head shaking there, Denny.
Always. It's just...
It's a matter of funding.
Yeah, difficult. It costs a lot of money. And Jodie doesn't work for free.
Of course.
But she earns every penny that she gets. And it's just the 3 homes that we have are on the same property. So Jodie's able to manage all the 3 houses. But we have to turn so many women away because of addiction issues and other issues that make it so they're just not quite prepared to be.
Because you need to make it a safe environment for the people that are there. Yes, it makes total sense.
In the future, I would, of course, love to be able to help more people. But I'd also like to be able to help more people that are really struggling with the addictions. And I'd love to go more into the rehabilitation And then, because a lot of the ladies that we have to say, we just can't take you right now. We also say, but, if you can go through this program, if you can find a program and you successfully complete it, then we'd love to talk to you again. And I'd like to have more hands-on with that part of the service.
So it's nice how the dream continues to grow. You started on the streets, and now you have homes for the House of Hope, and the next one is to have a facilitator to help in that rehabilitation, so that you can get them ready to be at the House of Hope.
Yeah, because really, when they come to us, they're committed to, when they actually are accepted, they're at a pretty high level, because they need to be committed to changing their lives. And
of course.
But there's so many that feel like I can't get control of myself.
Yeah. Wow. So Denny, what about or Jodie, about the children that are in the homes that come from abusive backgrounds, and what are you doing in those situations, and how are you helping through those big issues that I'm sure those children have?
Well, we try immediately to get them into counseling.
Okay.
And we have some great resources in the area that work with the children and the moms. And we offer on-site parenting classes, so that does help. But I think counseling is so important. And although we offer it on campus for moms, we do go out in the community and connect with our resources for the children.
Okay. Beautiful.
So mom and children go to counseling.
What about agencies that interact with the House of Hope program?
Well, there's quite a few. There's Hope Link that we work with, and there's YWCA that a lot of the women that exit us, our place, are ready for some more, I guess, less supervised and different living environment, the YWCA, and there's I forget the name of the local one that's in North Bend that a lot of the kids go to.
We work with Encompass.
Okay, yes.
And Friends of Youth as well.
Okay.
And a lot of the churches.
Oh, yeah. The churches in the area, definitely. And we have the Snoqualmie shuttle that our women use for transportation.
Okay,
and we do some work with the tribe, too, out there.
Wow. So what's different about House of Hope? What makes it unique and compared to others?
I have one that I know Jodie would back me up on this, and the fact that I didn't come from a social work point of view. I came from a father of 5 and desperately wanting to do something to fulfill my... Anyway, a lot of the women are kind of afraid of me at first, and a lot of the children...
Really? Why?
Because
you don't look like you're somebody to be afraid of with that big, huge smile.
They're afraid of men.
Okay.
And especially the children.
Well, I think they come too, and somebody being so nice to them immediately, they're kind
trust.
of like, what do you want? You know, what do you want from me? Yeah. You know, so I think it's hard for them to trust.
I definitely feel bad for them, and it doesn't bother me if they don't want to be next to me or close to me. But that's one thing that changes very quickly over the next week or 2 or 3. The kids will go from not wanting to have anything to do with me to not leaving me alone. And I love that. I mean, whenever I go up there, it's hard to get work done sometimes because I have to look at somebody's artwork, or I have to help somebody ride a bike, and so really it's hard to get a lot of stuff done.
Well, it sounds like that is your work, Denny.
That's true.
That sounds like it is your work, and it's a great job to have. So let's go back to the phone program and tell the story behind that, because that's really it started out with the food truck, and then it was random, and so you tell my listeners about that story. That
was pretty amazing. That night we went out on the streets with probably about 20 or 30 kids. I bring mostly high school kids with me.
Okay. From
church groups and from schools. And we were out under the viaduct, and this homeless man came up and asked me if he could use my phone. And at the time, this is back in 1991 when phones were really expensive, cell service. And I didn't really bring my phone for other people to use. It was there kind of as an emergency. And I said, well, who do you want to call? And he wanted to call his mom. So I thought, I need to let this guy call his mom. So he called his mom, happened to be in Florida. And I'm thinking, how am I going to pay for this? And it was so cool to see him. Back then, these cell phones were unique, to see him connect with his mom. And then somebody else came up and asked, even before he was through. And I said, yeah. And then somebody else, and all of a sudden we had like 20 people. And all night, that's all we did was let people call home. And there was so much laughing and so many tears that the kids that witnessed it, that's all they could talk about, because they were all of a sudden different. They were people just like them instead of just these homeless people. And I went home and I told Leslie what happened. And I said, I need to figure out a way that I can do this, because tonight, more than any other night, I feel like we made a difference out there. And so she said, well, let's pray about it, and if it's meant to be, we'll figure something out. And the next morning, before we even got out of bed, like 6:30 in the morning, the phone rang, and I answered it, and it was the vice chairman of AT&T Wireless.
Unbelievable.
Said my son it was called something different. It was Macaw Cellular back then. He said, my son was on your truck last night. And he said, I want to know who's paying for your service. And I said, actually, it's just my carpet guy phone. And he said, that's what I thought. He said, I need you to go see Anita Lambert at downtown Seattle. Mm-hmm. We've got 4 phones with service available for you. And since then, we've sent well over 1,200 people home to their families. So that was pretty
unbelievable,
amazing. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So it's not enough time to share out all the stories that I'd like my listeners to hear, but I do want to wrap up the show with how this has changed your lives. We've got 1 minute to close the show. Jodie, in the impact that this is having on you personally and your family, what is the experience?
I just think that it makes me thankful and grateful for everything I have. On those days that I'm having a bad day, or I don't feel like I have enough, or ends don't meet, this makes me put everything into perspective. I'm so thankful. Yeah,
makes total sense. Denny, I know I got to tell you just a few words here. What has this done to your family?
It's just brought so much joy to my family. All my kids have been involved, and their friends. It's just brought us so close together, and it's just wonderful. Just real quick,
of course,
there's this little girl that Jodie knows that will never talk to me, would never talk to me, and just was playing. I knew that she wasn't afraid of me. And then finally I said, are you ever going to talk to me? I said, I bet you can't even talk. And she said, I love you.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Denny, thank you so much. And Jodie, it was great having you here too. Next year we'll have to have all 3 of you. We'll bring Leslie in as well. We do have 3 mics here, so we'll have to have all of you. For more information regarding the Phone Home program or House of Hope, please call into the show at 1-855-400-1150 or go directly to mamashands.com. This is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off for the day. Enjoy your weekend, and thank you for being here for our very special show. And again, Denny and Jodie, thank you so much.
Thank you.